that. So got all the nooks and crannies cleaned up. I got all the things that aren't obstructed by the wood stove out of the way. Wish I'd done it sooner. It's actually a whole lot nicer than walking around crap. But weather prevented. I had to keep everything inside. Otherwise, I have the AC running in here because it's plenty humid outside. And for the last 3 days, I've been having issues with load and load balancing between the 24-volt system. So I went on the web and found that in order to make 4-wire from 14-wire, I had to have 10 strands. So what I did was I made up some 10-strand cables with the 14-wire that I had handy, and I had it going from this positive to this negative in order to complete the series to the 2 corners. And I then at that point was still unable to run the microwave, even with the 4-wire. So obviously that device was either faulty or misadvertised, with 828 being the max and half of that, like 400 and change, being the consistent output. It did run the AC, got warm, and that's 454 watts. But it would not run the microwave, which was 600 watts and 40-watt light bulb. So potentially like somewhere under 700 watts. You would think an 828-watt unit should be able to handle that. This 800-watt square wave with 1600 peak runs the microwave no issue. But it's a square wave. So I got the inverter advertised as pure sine wave 1000/2000. This runs it. That would not even when connected directly to the batteries. This does. Even when it's connected to just a single battery, it runs both. So I already have this. I took it out of the van. I guess that means I'm taking the van apart. Not the woodworking, but the electronics. I mean, it is what it is, whatever. Yeah, so anyway, due to the fact that this weather suddenly turned gray, dark gray, and that my solar panels right now are only putting out 65 some odd watts, and even a speed charge puts out 10 amps, 120 watts, if efficiency is 100% perfect, that would be 120 watts output at 12 volts. Then that means 12 volt system, 12 volt system, and I won't have to regulate, etc., etc. So what I did was I strung this positive to positive. I had 3 sets of 4 14s, which means 8 gauge, 8 gauge, 8 gauge. You put all them together, it might be like a 3 gauge wire. So now I have a 4 gauge wire and a 3 gauge wire. So essentially these are now boom, especially when you're talking about 57 watts. So the reason I had to step up to 24 volt was because my solar panels were 5 volts and 10 watts on nothing connected, wide open circuit, higher than the rated capacity for 12. And if I went up to 24 volt, not only would I be able to add 2 more panels and still barely get away with it, but it would decrease the amperage through the line, which means that I would have less line voltage drop, which means more wattage at the end over here, etc., etc., etc. So I do believe that 24 volt is going to be the way that I will travel, but right now it looks like this is what I'm doing until that voltage regulator gets here, because I'm tired of fiddling back and forth between putting on the clamps from this battery through this charger to charge that battery to equalize this manually. The regulator that I bought, it should do that for me automatically between both batteries in both directions. Whichever one is high will help the low both ways, while this is just giving constant attention for voltage total. That'll regulate between the two. Slight loss of efficiency, I'm quite sure, but if I get 2 more panels, it shouldn't matter. Only issue I'm thinking is that this is a 10 amp charger on a 24 volt system. This is potentially able to give like I think this is a 60 amp unit, and that regulator is only going to be able to go battery A to battery B 5 amps, but they said you can go in parallel, so I guess they can work in tandem also. From there, in regards to the 12 volt system, everything appears to be working. It's getting a little late. The AC is working this battery hard with the sun being low. I still have 1.7 amps coming in now, so I'll probably let it go down to like 11.6 and then cut it. I know tomorrow it's going to recover. I have to run outlets for 5 volt, I have to run outlets for 12 volt, and I have to run outlets for 120 VAC.